part about Teams is it's going to record, but it records to the cloud. So even if mine shuts off, it doesn't matter.
That's cool.
It still records you, and I can jump back in, and so I don't have to worry about like splicing audio together at all.
Yeah, great.
So this is what I've been referring people to if they're asking about podcast stuff. Okay,
awesome.
But we are here to talk about mono green, specifically Swedish mono green. So I messaged you, and the impetus for this was, and this is for the 3 people who are going to listen to this, but so I have a deck for EC. I have a deck I can travel anywhere in America with. I need a deck because like the next big phase I think in my life will be traveling to Europe for tournaments, and obviously. Right. Yeah, and they're gonna be like, when I play that second strip mine, they're gonna be like, weird. So I needed to come up with something better that's not gonna break my poor people budget. So that's why we came to mono green, and I'm gonna share my screen because this is the list you sent me, and then I'd like for you to talk through, and then I have some questions I want to ask you. Like, let me just figure out how I do this, but.
Cool. Yeah, no, when you asked me for a Swedish list, I like, what is going on with you in your life?
I know.
It's very off-brand. It's very confusing. I didn't really know what to think. I'm like, what is this, like a science project? Are you punking me right now? I didn't really understand. But anyway, I'm happy to help.
Yeah. So, like, normally I'd just be like, oh, like I could take the Earnham and Burnham list I have and buy 4 unlimited Taigas, a new Chaos Orb.
Yeah.
And just like cut the moxes for fucking basics or whatever, right?
Sure.
I could do that, but I wanted something that I could take separately. So or I guess I should say, when I build this deck, because I think I have most of it already anyhow.
Yep.
I'm planning on keeping this, so I have 2 physical decks, so I can take this one with me wherever I go without having to switch out cards.
Okay, so you're looking for a strictly Swedish legal budget deck, basically, is how we're on this. Okay, and so that means like all of the the reprint rules and stuff too.
Yep.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. Yeah. This is probably the deck in the Swedish format that really checks is that like perfect Venn diagram of like affordability and competitiveness.
Yes.
So yeah, you've come to the right place.
Yeah. I mean, to me, the expensive. I mean, is the Mox.
It's the bottles, the Ice Storms, and then the Mox. If you want a Swedish legal emerald, that's obviously the.
Dude, I was looking at the Ice Storms because I only have like 1 or 2 unlimited ones or whatever. But they're actually not. They've come down in price.
Like they're cheap again, right? Are they like 40, 50 bucks?
Yeah, 50. Like 200 for the playset. Let's say you just need to buy all 4.
Do it now.
That's not exactly like that's. I was like, yep, just add those to the cart. Throw those in. So I think like a lot of it's come down.
Good.
Yeah. So I mean, this will be like the entry point, I think, for most people, which kind of sucks because I think a lot of people will be prepared for this deck going into a tournament. But
yeah, that's super valid. I feel like the meta has definitely shifted over the last couple of years since I started playing decks like this.
Sure.
And I mean, that's an amazing thing about old school, right? Is that you have a format with a static card pool of whatever 900-ish cards. Only like 300 of those cards are playable. But still, like, the meta changes. It churns over time. Think about how like ATOG decks were in vogue a couple of years ago, and then Shops decks broke out in a couple different formats. And now you don't see ATOG anymore. It's all this like 12 bolt lion stuff. Things just keep kind of churning and evolving despite really no changes at all to the cards, and no changes really to the rules either. It's neat to see. And even coming back from, so I went to Italy this year to go to the WinCon, which was super fun. But like, even coming back from that, I'm like, man, like, what even is the Swedish like metagame right now? It's just like the churn continues, and it's really kind of fun.
What did you take with you to WinCon? I don't think.
Yeah, I played the mono green deck Splashing Black.
Okay.
I did well enough with it. I was a little bit disappointed. I started 4-1. Had a full set of steam, or head of steam, I guess, and ran into Paul Da Silva in the second to last round of Swiss. And he ended up top eighting with like it was pretty good. It was pretty cool actually. He ended up top eighting with, you know, the 4 Serendib Jin, 4 Serendib Free like land tax deck. So hats off to him. But yeah, in our game 3, you know, he's beating me down with Serendib Jin, and I can't find one of my 2 bottles, 3 mazes, 2 terrors, you know, hurricanes,
Anything. Yeah.
chaos orb. Like I have so many outs to this stupid thing. And couldn't find one for the life of me. Then I missed an orb flip, and just it kind of ended my day right then and there.
Yeah.
And so I ended up 4-3 on the day, which was super sad. But still, I mean, it's, you know, again, it's like it's a competitive archetype, right? The fact that I was even, you know, at sitting at 4-1 in a room with, I don't know, 120 people, that kind of speaks for itself, and felt really good. So
nice. I should probably, I'll put this on YouTube, but I'm also going to put it on the actual internets. Just so everybody knows, it's a bunch of forests, 2 maze, 3 factories, 3 Pendlehavens, 1 strip mine, 1 emerald, 4 crumble, 3 elves of deep shadow, 3 giant growth, 2 hurricane, 4 Llanowar elves, 4 scavenger folk, 4 scrib sprites, 1 timberwolves, 3 Argothian pixies, 1 orb, 2 bottles, 1 regrowth, 4 ice storm, and then it is 3 spitting slugs. Sideboard is 1 extra Argothian pixie, a library, another maze, another factory, 3 relic barriers, another spitting slug, another timberwolf, 2 tranquility, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 whirling dervish. So that's the list. I went over it really fast. You could probably have guessed 99% of it. Okay. So we talked about this previously, but I was obviously going to bring it up. But like, what are you trying to accomplish with this deck? Right? It doesn't have very good creatures.
what?
In my opinion,
What are you talking about?
It's missing the best green creature. His name's Urnham Jin. I don't know if you've met him.
Oh, Urnham Jin is unplayable. I sold mine actually.
Oh fuck. Yes. I'll come. I want to go to here's what I was going to say. Why are there specific things in this list, and then why are there things not in this list?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so this this is basically this is basically what I would call a stock mono green list for Swedish right now. This is like, I feel like this is kind of like the cutting edge right here. this is what it looks like basically, you know, within a few cards. So I mean I think my reaction about your comment about the creatures just now is like, just thinking about the old school card pool. Green's creature suite is crazy deep. And I'm excited to talk about what's not here, because there's actually a lot of cards right on the edges of the 75 that, you know, could definitely be included here.
Okay.
But I guess to answer the question about what the deck is trying to do, it's really a mana denial kind of disruption, kind of tempo-y type of deck.
Okay.
The goal, the backbone of the deck is Ice Storm. The whole point is playing Ice Storm on turn 2 off of one of the mana dorks. And in the straight mono green list, it looks like we have 7, which is fine. I guess you could also play the 4th Elves of Deep Shadow if you want, to really make sure that you're hitting the 3 mana on turn 2. And then from there, the ideal game plan is you're blowing up like 2 to 4 mana sources within the first couple turns, and opening a window for yourself to push through damage with your guys, your scribs, your pixies, your slugs. The other kind of I guess philosophical kind of overarching rule here is that you're tapping all of your permanents every single turn. So all of the lands are doing all kinds of work all the time. Obviously Pendelhaven and Factory Attack. Maze does everything. I mean, I could spend 2 hours just talking about Maze. It's a mana source in a way with the dorks. There's just so many different things. So you're like basically using all of your permanents are like everything that you're doing is weaker than what your opponent is probably doing. Like the individual power level of all your cards is lower, but you're maxing your advantage by using all of them to their utmost as hard and as fast as you can in the first 5 turns of the game, and hoping that's enough to get you over the top. That's kind of what we're doing in a nutshell.
Yeah, I like the Maze of Ith stuff is interesting. We've talked about it in person before, but like Maze of Ith, like you said, with like the Llanowar elves, you can basically either attack with them and then pull them out of combat and then use them to cast stuff or whatever, or the interaction with Spitting Slug in the first strike ability. Also, I saw you blow somebody out with that once, and I was like, yeah, first time, and he said yes, so that was fantastic. Okay, let me ask you. Ernie's not in here, and I feel like that kind of makes sense because you're probably not worried about getting to 4 mana at any point, right?
Yeah, 4 mana is a lot. That's the main thing. It's expensive. Like I said, we're tapping all of our stuff every single turn. And by the time you can cast something that costs 4, Pendelhaven wants to be attacking. Factory wants to be attacking probably. Depends on what they're holding up. And Erhnam also, first of all, we have 2 main deck bottles. Bottle is a really, really important part of the plan as well. I said the backbone of the deck was the Ice Storms. Bottle is Ice Storm in this deck. It's like sort of Ice Storm 5 and 6. It just wrecks strategies that actually use the Arabian creatures, obviously. But it also, its primary mode in this deck is as land destruction. Like it kills City of Brass. It kills Library.
Yep.
So it's usually just that. Yeah.
Those make a whole lot of sense. It gives you a lot of game against blue decks and decks who are going to play Library.
And the other issue with Erhnam is that there is the downside of the whole Forest Walk thing, and if you are like for whatever reason in some kind of race, it can give the opponent some advantage there in pushing damage past you, which is annoying.
Fair. Two artifacts, and they're kind of do the same thing, kind of. Ankh of Mishra, Copper Tablet. We've talked about Copper Tablet outside of other formats. What kept them out of the 75?
Okay, yeah. So what keeps things out of the 60, obviously, is that we're blanking any kind of main deck artifact destruction whatsoever. Sure. So Bottle is a sorcery. Like if they kill it after the fact, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
If they kill your Emerald, that doesn't matter. And my rule of thumb is basically just never activate Factory. Like at all. But especially never activate Factory into the opponent's disenchant that you know that they have. You know that they have it because you haven't given them a target before that point. You're casting Chaos Orb as a sorcery for 3 mana as well, by the way. Chaos Orb is also Ice Storm. What keeps Copper Tablet out of the 75? Actually, nothing. You could easily play Copper Tablet here. I think they're competing for slots in the sideboard with the Relic Barriers.
Okay.
I just like Relic Barrier for 2 reasons right now. Robots are really in vogue in Sweden also, or in Europe, I should say. There's the robot burn list BB8 that has been sort of optimized by the Dutch team, and that's everywhere in the meta right now. Okay. So you have Relic Barrier to help with the actual robots, but then Relic Barrier is also Ice Storm in a way, right? Because you have the Rashadan Port like mode of Relic Barrier, which is just like their upkeep, tap their mocks, keep their stuff locked down. It just kind of fits with the whole plan. Copper Tablet's great. I love Copper Tablet against like Twiddle Vault. I love Copper Tablet against the deck. I like Copper Tablet for anytime you're kind of like you want, if your opponent's taking extra turns, obviously, but if you want like reach If you want like non-green damage source for some reason, Copper Tablet's pretty great. I've definitely used them. They come in and out of my lists a lot. It just depends on the meta that you're wanting to see. Ankh, you could make a case for. I don't like. I know I like Relic Barrier better here as well, in that like, especially if there's like robots or something, like Relic Barrier blocks in a way. Ankh's a rough top deck. I mean, I think it competes. It kind of competes like spiritually with Copper Tablet in that regard, but I think I want Copper Tablet more than Ankh against the deck. And also, again, you're not playing the main, right? So it's purely a sideboard consideration. I don't know. Ankh could be in the mix. Maybe I'll experiment with them a bit more.
Yeah, I was just curious about that. Like, I think we had the same idea, which was like the Relic Barriers, the Ankhs, and the Copper Tablets are all kind of like flexible.
Yep.
I think the Relic Barriers make sense. I saw a lot of robots this last weekend as well. So if I was going to take this, I would 100% want the Relic Barriers over top.
And just on robots a second, like,
sure.
People,
no, do it.
I feel like people always complain about workshops, like no matter what, right? So like in EC, right? People are like, oh, workshops is so strong because like strip mine makes workshops better, which I actually agree with.
Sure,
I think it compounds the asymmetry that workshop sets up for you. People complain about workshops in Atlantic. They're like, oh, you don't have to strip mine to compete with to blow up their workship. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. Workshops are really good. But even in Swedish, where you have shop restricted, robots are still everywhere. Like it actually doesn't matter. If you restrict workshops, people still play robots. And in Sweden, like their mana is better. Like it opens up that entire like robots and burn space. It also enables like the Leo Bruder kind of value robots archetype. Like he runs like animate debt. I don't know how his deck even works, but he puts up insane results with that deck. So I don't know. I guess my point is like stop worrying about this. Like in whatever format you're talking about, it doesn't matter. Like there will be Triskelions and Suchis and copy artifacts and stuff. So deal with it.
Yeah. Like I know we like to poke fun at each other on the internet about the strips. But like on it, I just do it for the funsies. Like the
obviously,
like yeah. Like I know workshops is a good, like it doesn't, like I agree with your assessment, right? Like workshop, any type of like workshop or robot type deck is gonna be good. That's why that card is fucking like banned or restricted in every format it's ever been legal in. Period. Like it doesn't take a fucking PhD to figure that out. Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I like the BB-8 list looks really interesting.
It's cool.
Yeah, and it feels like, I don't want to say affordable, but like semi-affordable because you only have to have one workshop. I don't even know if you really need it.
True enough, right?
You know what I mean? Like, that's an aside topic. But there's two more cards I want to talk about.
Sure.
Avoid Fate. It feels like not great. But like, don't even consider it. Okay.
You can't do it. I don't even like Avoid Fate actually, like in the Berserk lists. Reason is it's reactive. You can't nothing here depends on what the opponent's really doing. Like everything here is proactive. You can't, like I said, you're tapping all of your permanents ideally, like on your turn. You're not like, at the end of the day, if they want to swords something or otherwise like kill one of your permanents, like, yeah, great, let them. Like if someone bolts my guy, I'm like, cool, that's a bolt that doesn't go to my face. If someone swords my guy, I'm like, well, that's one swords out of 4 that they have, and I still have I have whatever 20 something creatures, right? So you're just not worried about any kind of instant speed like removal that you're going to want to hold up an entire green mana. I mean, mana is at such a premium in this deck. Like it's sometimes hard to get double green to cast Spitting Slug. I'm not kidding. It's sometimes hard to get double green to cast Whirling Dervish. It's there's just there's a lot. Again, like it's all like really razor thin margins, and you're tapping out all the time. So I don't think Avoid Fate's in the picture.
That's fair. I kind of I thought so. I just figured I'd ask. It just doesn't make sense. the Timberwolves. Is it
Love
just
'em.
because it has? Is it just because it has bands on it and you confuse people with that? Like me when I attack into it with a berserk, like
It's
you're like,
it's a
gotcha, gotcha.
great Timberwolf is there. It's a great it's a little counterintuitive. It's a one drop, but
Yeah.
you actually you don't care about seeing it early. It's really a mid to late game card. It helps you keep attacking into bigger creatures. So same reason that Maze is in the deck. It's an offensive tool that helps you just trade a 1 or a 2 drop for something that costs 4 or 5 generally. You can attack into Sarah Angel. You can attack into whatever. Name a creature with 4 toughness. It helps you get there. And in the strictly mono green lists, you have the discretionary slots to be able to use Timberwolf. I also think it's in Swedish where the pace of the games is a little bit slower.
Mhm.
Curves can go a little bit higher. So people are more able to play the 4 and 5 mana cost creatures. So Timberwolf can help there.
Okay. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I feel like if I had a banning question, I would just text or call you. But if you banned an attack, you can use the maze and it'll pull both creatures out.
No, you can only pull one creature out. But the way that Maze works with banding is that you okay, they block your band.
Sure.
And then say you have like I'm trying to engineer a situation here where like this is a favorable like combat math. Not having an example like on the tip of my tongue. The point is that like if you maze any of the creatures in the band, banding lets you redirect all of the opponent's creature's damage to the creature that got mazed,
Okay.
which then gets prevented. So like your other
Okay.
creatures that are attacking and got blocked, like can do their lethal damage, presumably to the blocking creature.
Okay.
And then the mazed creature soaks all of the damage from the blocked creature.
Got it. Okay. All right.
It's really powerful. It's really, really powerful.
That seems really good. Really good. I'm gonna have to like write that out on a piece of paper to explain to people. I'd be like, so hear me out.
The thing that trips people up is that Maze doesn't remove the creature from combat. Everyone's like, oh, Maze just takes the creature out of combat. It doesn't at all. All Maze does is untaps an attacking creature, and then prevents damage in or out. Basically, the creature doesn't do damage, and the creature doesn't take damage.
Wild. Yeah, I play Maze and I still feel like I don't actually know how it plays 99% of the time. I just use it to like hold up a blocker. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
that's
attacking them, hold a blocker.
Right. Yeah, as a blocker. Yeah, no, I mean that's another like a great thing that I love about this list is that it uses Maze in that offensive mode more often than not. Maze is a tool for continuing to push damage through when they would otherwise be stabilizing by casting, a fat creature like an Urnum or a Sarah Angel.
Right. All right. For Swedish, do you need the emerald or can you just replace that with another forest?
I mean, you never need the emerald. It helps. It gives you some faster turn ones.
Right.
But no, it's not make or break. If you don't have a unlimited emerald, you can still fly to Europe and have a grand old time playing this unpowered.
Yeah, I feel like the other pieces, like the other quote unquote expensive pieces, are necessary, like the cities in the orb for sure.
Yeah, I mean you could play Sol Ring.
Okay.
The idea again, like the most important thing here is like cast Ice Storm on turn 2.
Yeah, the Sol Ring definitely helps.
Sol Ring helps with that.
Yeah.
So if you don't have the emerald, you can play Sol Ring. But you would still want whatever 14 green, not counting dorks, right? What do I have here? 11 through. I actually have 15. Yeah, 15 is good. 15 is comfortable. 14 is pushing it.
The upgrade path. So let's say I buy this deck, and I want to upgrade it. I'm assuming it's adding black. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's Bayous. Yep.
It's Bayous. And then
Bayous
for terrors, or is there anything else you're splashing out of the black?
Terror is the most important thing because terror shores up the deck's hardest matchup, which is against Sarah Angel.
Okay.
That's like public enemy number 1, and also deals with Sedge Troll, right? So I think I think the black splat, like I'm not gonna. Everyone's like, oh, this is whatever a DFB style green deck or whatever. Like I would never claim like responsibility for pioneering mono green in old school. That's insane. People have been putting up really cool results like Derek Walker at Bootlegger's Ball years back, and Nikita Shalest, the Russian guy who always brought like a mono green Berserk deck to NoobCon. But the black splash, I will claim credit for. I think
Sure.
it's the easiest splash, right? Because you have Elves of Deep Shadow.
Yeah.
And so with 4 Elves of Deep Shadow, 4 Bayou, and maybe a Jet, the jury's still out on the Jet, whether it's really that important or not. You get access to Terror, like the most important splash card. Tutor is good, obviously. It's another whatever. It's another Chaos Orb. It's another bottle. It's whatever you need. Another Hurricane. Another Strip Mine. And then Mind Twist is okay. It's not at its best, right? You don't have all the fast mana.
Yeah.
You might be able to throw a 3 Mind Twist for 3 on turn 2 or 3. I don't know if that's exciting enough for people. Sometimes I leave it in the sideboard. Sometimes I cut it. Just depends on how we're feeling. But yeah, the black splash is I guess the upgrade path. But it's an open question as to what is really better, right? Because the black splash definitely makes you worse against Blood Moon. So if you're in a room where you're going to see Blood Moon, or if you care about that, it's possible that the mono green build is just better. It's more consistent. But I think the upside of Terror is worth it, which is why I typically play with the black splash. But it's not like, I don't know, the joke about Terror. So we have in the Neos Facebook group, we have like a card of the day discussion.
Okay.
And whenever Terror comes up, I make the joke that I spent $17,000 to splash for Terror in my mono green deck because I have I have beta Bayous and the beta Jet and all that stuff.
Yeah, just a splash for a 20-cent card. It's fine.
Yep.
I'm
Totally,
about to do
totally
it as well.
fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I really want to kill Sarah Angel. So yeah, I mean, and then there's other branches of the tree, right? So this is like the max like mana denial disruption route. I mean, there's other schools of thought in mono green. Like I mentioned, Nikita and the Berserk shells. It's a different deck, but I think there's definitely an argument, especially in Swedish, where your mana base is not necessarily under pressure. If you want to run a list with like 16, 17 green sources, you could play 4 Berserk and just have a grand old time. And that's a deck that maybe you do run a couple Arnhem Djinns in, because it's easier to get to lethal damage.
A bigger green deck.
Yeah, starting with a bigger creature. I like Slug there too. So that's a way to do it. I just think that it's higher variance.
Okay. What
I love about this approach that we're talking about right now is that it's very consistent. There's a lot of synergy. The ceiling is not super high, but the trade-off there is it's gonna do what you expect it to most of the time, like the vast majority of the time, and there's a lot of appeal in that to me.
Yeah, it's got a really good band of excellence. Like the floor is higher, the ceiling is slightly lower.
Mm-hmm.
Last question. This is a little bit spicy. If I wanted to make this into an anti-40k deck, what do I cut to add my birds?
Oh wow.
I play 64 cards and just add 4 birds.
Well, I guess the question is, how do you feel about playing 4 birds and 2 bottles main deck?
I think the bottles are good because you just fucking if you bird somebody and then you play a bottle, you're locking them out of their bird.
Yeah. So if you like the bottle plan, and I think I do, anti-40k. Let's see. You're probably cutting a giant growth or 2. You're probably cutting. I mean, you just have to make room somehow, right? I definitely would keep. I don't know. 40k, you're going to see a lot of like Hypnotic Spectre. You're going to see a lot of Suchi. You're going to see some trolls. You're going to see Sarah Angels. I don't know. are you? I guess the question is, do you have enough value to get yourself to whatever $3,700?
You got to play the emerald. You got to have the emerald in there.
You have to play the emerald. You have to play a chaos orb, maybe, or it's just the emerald that just is your value, and then you just hope to never.
This weekend I got to meet a bunch of guys who play it, guys and gals.
Yeah.
And the Danny Friedman thought right now is to just play 1 or 2 high value cards.
Yeah.
And leave the rest.
It's like the Stars and Scrubs approach in like fantasy football auction draft or something, like, you know, 1 or 2 blue chips, and you know the rest, you know, play your unlimited versions of the rest. Don't play your beta, whatever. Your beta Ice Storms or
he played a deck that had 1 workshop and 1 library in it, and the rest of it was fucking garbage. Like,
amazing. I'm sure he still did well because he's a freaking wizard.
I watched him play for a couple hours, and it was fantastic to watch. It was pretty interesting. And then he commented games for me on the side, which was also like, why I was like, oh, maybe I could get into this and just not tell my wife what I was doing with these cards.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's a good question. Okay, because like once you have the Swedish deck built, the Anti 40K feels like the natural progression.
Yes, yeah. I mean, if you've got a bunch of unlimited cards sitting around, I think Anti 40K is probably the natural progression of everything. If you think about it, it's the logical endpoint to everything that we're doing. You know, it's just like once you have played Old School a bunch, and you have this collection sitting there, you know, you start to feel a little bit frisky. It's a beautiful format. I mean, the Swedish reprint rules are there for a reason, right? Like it definitely it enforces an aesthetic that is really delightful. I get that it's not for everybody. It's not very accessible. It's kind of gatekeepy. All that is true. But it also has this sort of undeniable cachet, in my opinion, and I enjoy it very much. But yeah, playing with that stuff for Anti is sort of, I don't know. If you spend enough time in the format, it just feels like just the logical conclusion.
Well, the next question we were arguing was like, let's say you wanted to like stake somebody in some Anti 40K games. What is it like? You know, like if you were to stake somebody for playing like a backroom game of poker, right? You'd be like, all right, well, you own the losses, I get 5 or 10% off the top, right? What does that look like for Anti 40K? You hand somebody a deck, and you're like, I'm staking, like you're staking a good player. What is that? What do you think those terms are? Because you can't just say 5%. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Because it's mostly just birds. Here's the problem, right? It's mostly birds, and then when it's not a bird, you're getting a card that you can't sell.
Yeah, exactly. That's why you can't say percentage. Like the losses are easy to account for, but it's the
losses are easy for sure. You're getting a card that you can't sell. I mean, unless you're getting a card, say for example, if you win, I don't know, you win a duel that you already have a copy of, you're getting one that has been defaced. Yeah, but that's never leaving your collection. But you can sell the one from your, you know, from elsewhere in your collection, I guess. So like, I don't know, I won a Mind Twist off of Duncan Purvis the night before LobsterCon earlier this year, and so like I sold my other unlimited Mind Twist, I guess. I don't know. It's not super exciting though. Sometimes you might not even want to do that. Maybe you just want your like signed and defaced like beater copy to play anti games with. Maybe you want to keep that one to play like in your normal decks at normal tournaments, and then like keep a clean one in your anti deck to maybe have a chance of signing later. I don't know. There's a lot of different schools of thought. So yeah, it's really hard to like, I think, quantify like what even is a win, right? Like I won, I don't know. Yeah, I've won a bunch of things that are not birds, which is super fun. Usually, unfortunately, they're worth less than a bird.
You're right, exactly.
A bird is like whatever, $35 now. Sure. Most of what I've won is less than
basics.
That. Yeah, some basics. I won a Ball Lightning off of Magnus de Laval when I was in Switzerland earlier this year. That was exciting. But at the end of the day, it's worth less than a bird. I won a strip mine off of Johnny Mirbaka a couple months ago, which was fun, but it was like the common strip mine. So I don't know what is.
Yeah, it's like. Nothing.
It's not. Yeah, it's not that big a deal.
Nothing.
But then again, I'm going to play with these cards like for a long time, so it's fun to have stuff that's signed and that that you. I'm like, oh, I won this card playing for keeps against a friend. When I was somewhere at a cool tournament or somewhere cool. It's really fun.
Okay. All right. That was it. Those were my questions.
Those were your questions.
I'm glad I got you up early for this.
I mean, there's probably a couple single card discussions that I could unpack with a couple of these things.
I think what's important for people who've never met me in real life is like I'm not actually good at Magic. I don't think like I'm just like, yep, like this is what I'm gonna play. So yes, please discuss these cards.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I can. It doesn't have to be crazy exhaustive, but I think but I've put in so much time with this with decks like this now that there's a lot of interesting kind of corners to them. I think Maze we've covered pretty well, right? It's you're not using it as a blocker, you're using it as an offensive, like a feint, basically, to keep pushing through damage. Factor we talked about. I've got 3 factory main. You can play 4 factory main, I guess. I just don't. It's actually kind of mana intensive to.
It's a double green. You need that double green.
It's mana intensive to to cast your stuff, but also like to actually use the factory like as a creature. You're tying up 2 lands. You're tying up the land that you tapped and the factory itself, right? So I don't love them in multiples, to be honest. Again, like it's a deck that's tapping all of its stuff, and sometimes there's situations where you don't want to attack with factory. I've got the 4th one in the sideboard. Obviously, it's a great card. You bring it in against the Abyss. You bring it in against Disc, because it survives Disc, all that stuff. Pendelhaven is sort of the Green Mishra's Factory. It's also sort of like the equipment that Old School really is missing. It's an amazing card. You could almost make it a case for running 4 of them. It just makes the entire thing hum. It is what makes your 1-drop creatures more aggressive. It helps them in combat a lot. I could write a lot about Pendelhaven as well. Crumble is for Moxes. It's not for robots. Scavenger Focus. Yeah. Scavenger Focus for robots. Crumbles for factories. Scavenger Focus, you hold it back in case they activate their factory in combat. But the play, like, those are very different cards. They do some of the same things. Crumble's really fast. Scavenger Focus is really slow. Scavenger Folk takes a lot of is sort of mana intensive in a way. In some ways, Scavenger Folk is like a 1/1 with Echo, which is a weird feeling. Let's see. Giant Growth. Again, like there's different schools of thought on this. Some people say it's like the strongest card in the deck. I tend to side them out a lot. I tend to like cut down to 1 or 2 of them in my decks that splash black. Something has to give. I think there's a build of this that leans into Giant Growth. Like you run all 4 main deck. You play like Elvish Archers and use the first strike. Use Giant Growth basically as a kill spell. Use it with Tracker as a kill spell. Play Wailuli Wolf. Maybe back off of the bottles a little bit. That's like a whole other branch of the tree that I haven't spent as much time on. Hurricane. It's sort of impossible to imagine this deck without it. In Swedish, I would always run 2. I've come up on Hurricane over time. There's just no other card that does what it does. It's often your only recourse as far as closing out a game. There's so many mid to late game states where they've stabilized. You can't keep pushing damage through, but you've got whatever 5 mana and you can just reach out and kill them. It's really, really important. It also deals with hippies. It can be an out to Sarah Angel if you're not too far behind. Just amazing card. Always play 2 in Swedish. In like ATL and EC, it competes a little bit with like Aeoli Pile for that same kind of reach out and just win the game kind of effect. Like Pile works a bit differently, but anyway, that's what I'll say about Hurricane. Scrib Sprites are probably the most important attacker. They like I'm I'm kind of off Argothian Pixies in mono green, as insane as that sounds. Like I know in
Interesting.
your
Okay.
red green lists, Argothian Pixies like a staple that you can't imagine living without because it punches through factory. It's got this kind of pseudo evasion. I know there's a lot of guys that in the like Pez, for example, like the guys in the 12 bolt school who also love Pixie for that reason. In mono green, ironically, it's less important because you have so many ways of killing factory. Like Crumble kills factory, Ice Storm kills factory, actual strip mine kills factory, scavenger kills factory, regrowth probably kills factory because it recurs like a crumble or your strip mine or whatever. And like other things like Script Sprites doesn't care about factory. Like you just don't care. If there's a factory that they've played, it's dead. Like it's just not going to stick around. So that ability of Argothian Pixies sort of matters less. Obviously, you want access to all 4 Pixies in the 75 because Triskelion is a thing that's out there, Suchi is a thing that's out there. But I've been messing around lately with like some combination of Pixies and Dervishes, mixing and matching between the main and the side. Okay. And so like I said, Green's creature suite is pretty deep, right? You've got Pixies, you've got Dervishes, you've got Elvish Archers at the 2 slot, and there's reasons for each of them. I think in the mirror, Archers is amazing. Great magic card. But it's got other liabilities, right? Dervish, obviously, you're bringing in against Abyss. That's really what it's there for. And also when you need to lower your curve, I mean, there's some situations where, like if I'm against the deck, I'm maxing creatures, but I'm probably pulling the slugs because there's nothing the slug is doing that that Dervish isn't necessarily doing. So there's different, like a lot of the sideboarding is really actually calibrating the creature base to the situation, which is one of the most rewarding parts of it for me to get right. And to kind of see it getting right when you play that Dervish and they're like, oh shit, like I was ready for Pixie. I can't deal with a Dervish. Yep. Let's see. Orb we talked about, don't miss your flips like I do. Bottle we talked about, it's more of an Ice Storm here with upside. Slug is a great card. People don't know how Slug works. I didn't know how Slug worked, to be honest, until late last year. After I scummed Pez at the Invitational LobsterCon that we had last September, there was a situation where like I was attacking with the Slug and what was he doing? Was he blocking or something? He was chump blocking it, but then he like, there's a weird moment before damage where he like asked me if like to confirm, because he didn't totally know how Slug worked either. He like sort of asked me to confirm if we went to damage, like the Slug will have like, he's like, oh, the Slug will have 2 damage marked on it. I'm like, yeah, but now that you said that, I'm gonna activate First Strike. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
You can't do that. I didn't know that, but then looking at the Oracle text, like I don't know, days or weeks later, I'm like, oh, holy shit! Like that was an angle shooty thing to begin with, but it was also illegal. Spitting Slug has it's a triggered ability. That says
that's right. We were talking about this.
Yeah, it's really weird. You have a very narrow window to give it First Strike. It's basically like right after blockers are declared. It says, okay, triggered ability, blockers have been declared. Now, if you pay 1 and a green, it gets First Strike right now. If you don't, they get First Strike. Like your opponent's creatures. So you have to be really careful of that. You can't, like, you only have 1 opportunity. So there is a lot of like fancy stuff that you can do with the maze, right? So like if you're attacking in, you can give your Spitting Slug First Strike, do the First Strike damage and then maze it back so that it doesn't take damage. So that they can't bolt it later after it's taken some damage from a creature. It's the thing that you really have to be careful of is when your opponent has Lightning Bolt. Because that's when most of these like sticky timing situations with the First Strike ability come into play. So just read the Oracle text, make sure you know how it works, because it's very rewarding to know those corner cases and use them to your advantage. And it's also not good to not know how your cards work. So don't be like me. Learn how to use Spitting Slug.
Yeah.
I think we've touched on everything except for, I mean, Tranquility, obvious. I mean, it should be relatively obvious, but they're there for, they're there especially for like Abyss and Moat, which will wreck your day. There's random decks that they just destroy, that are based on enchantments for whatever reason. I will say against workshops, they do double duty, because the Tranquility not only deals with the Abyss, but it also kills copy artifacts that are sitting around. So if they have like copies of Suchi sitting around, it kills those too, which is super satisfying.
I did not know that.
Yep, because once it's copied something, it's still an enchantment. It's not blue anymore. Some people think it's blue or whatever.
I did know that part. Yeah.
Yeah, but it is still an enchantment.
Oh
so
yeah,
like
that's right.
A copied Suchi is an artifact creature enchantment. A copied Mox is an artifact enchantment. So yeah, so I mean, I would love to find room for a second Tranquility. There might be, I don't know, might be some wiggle room here, depending on how you feel about like the fourth Slug or the second Timberwolf or whatever. But yeah, Tranquility is a really clutch thing, especially against robots. I think there's a couple other things knocking on the door. Let me just grab my sideboard of my whiteboarded mono green deck. Winter Blast.
Yes.
You want a little bit of spice.
I played in 1.5. Yep.
Winter Blast is sweet. It kills a hippie for 1 and a green. That's probably its best mode. But there's also just like a break through the line effect. Like if there's a board stall or something and you need 1 Alpha Strike to win, yeah, Winter Blast actually does it because it taps the creatures even if they don't fly. Let's see what else. Wailuli Wolf. Like I said, there's a branch of this tree that involves Tracker, Wailuli Wolf, and maxing the giant growths.
Okay.
But the issue with Wolf is that there's the push pull with the bottles. This is Swedish, so we're not talking about Aeoli Pile, but in the EC and Atlantic builds that allow Fallen Empires, Pile's awesome. Elvish Archers I talked about a little bit. Better with more giant growths. Really, really good in the mirror. And if you run into, I think like White Weenie is low-key a problem for this deck.
Okay.
Like you don't want to see a White Knight. It really wrecks your shit.
You're like, yeah.
So Elvish Archers can kind of help with that. Yeah, so those are like the sideboard cards that kind of knock on the door. They find their way into the lists sometimes. And that's that's it in a nutshell. Those are my other like single card thoughts.
Yeah, that's the only reason I didn't even ask you about like Wailuli Wolf, because I think that's a good card too, is just because I figured like they weren't there because of the bottles. So
yep. Yeah, it's the bottles. It's a cool card. Like it's even as a one of, if you're leaning out on bottle for whatever reason, yeah, I could see one of it like in the sideboard to bring it in.
In the bigger green builds, let me suggest a card that I think I'm going to start playing more of, and that's a card called Arena, which is terrible.
Oh yeah,
but it also taps things down to break through.
Yeah, I don't think Arena is actually illegal in Swedish for whatever reason.
It's not because it's one of the comic book promos.
Yeah, but it is legal in
for like EC and ATL and all that.
EC, shit. ATL, whatever Pacific. Yeah, I think it's everywhere but Swedish, basically.
Yeah, it would be a much better card if it actually tapped for a colorless. Unfortunately, it doesn't.
Yeah, Andy Baccaro's done some work with Arena. I mean, there's not many weird cards that Andy Baccaro hasn't done some work with. But yeah, he's done some cool things with it. I think it works with Sengir Vampire the way that you would want it to, which is pretty funny.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
And then
pretty bad.
I've seen some like mono green prison lists where they use it with like Briarwood. There's like some wall that deals damage. And so you basically just like lock them out of attacking and then just start like eating away at their creatures. Okay. Yeah. Interesting stuff. All right.
Did you play Mono Green in the Woods?
I did. I'm gonna tell you about how I cheated this weekend. So, all right. So Mono Green in the Woods. I brought a singleton Mono Green deck, right? But to win, quote unquote, Mono Green in the Woods, you had to collect these like wooden chalice chips.
Yeah, I heard about this. Yeah, they're like wooden nickels, basically.
Yeah, I don't even know if you can see this on my screen, but like wooden nickels, right? So what I did is I cheated like a fucking rat, and I traded away a lot of Urza's Annie cards for about 70 wood chips. And I won 0 games of Mono Green the Wood, but I did win the Mono Green the Wood card.
Wow, what a monster! What was the card?
I am. It was a tracker, I want to say. It's actually in my cube.
Cool, cool.
That
Well,
was
that's good. I
the
mean, the
yeah,
cube is a good home for it.
the real winner was Stebo. They had like built like a fungus deck or whatever, and it like it would like basically fog you, and then it's too fucking far in here. It would fog you, and then you could he would just win through like drawing cards, like normal like good deck things.
Sure.
There's a dude there from the Desert Twisters who played Fog and then actually brought a fog machine with him.
I saw a picture
And
of
like,
it.
That
is so far above and beyond.
Would you care to gander how much that fog machine costs?
Unreal. I mean, I wasn't there obviously, so I didn't see it. But was it like one of the stage ones?
No, it was like he somehow rigged it to his body. Like it was like a small, like a personal. I don't know if this is a real thing, but like a personal fog machine.
A personal fog machine, was it like Spider-Man? Did he have like a web shooter, but like the fog?
Yeah, he ran it. He ran it through his sleeve on a long sleeve.
That's insane.
Yeah. How much? So there were like real winners.
How much would I? How much would you pay for that effect? I would pay maybe $70 for a prank fog effect in a setting like that. What did he pay?
I would say that it was triple that cost.
Oh my god.
Yes, it was but I was there. I seen it whenever he did it, and it was well worth it. He cast a revised or 4th edition fog, and then used a machine worth hundreds of revised fogs too.
Right, he didn't even spring for beta fog. I guess it's unsleeved or whatever.
A dude was playing an unsleeved workshop. So like the second prize was like the most expensive card you could play unsleeved, and he played an unsleeved workshop.
Yeah, that works.
In a mono green deck that contained, I think, 0 green cards outside of Titania's Song.
Oh yeah, no, that's the amazing thing about mono green, right? Is that there are so many different things that you can do with it. I mean, there's the song builds, there's like enchantress builds, there are actual workshop builds. Like if you're just, you could play 4 shops and robots. You could play I don't know, there's like weird Arborea decks, there's like Turbo Fog type things, there's all kinds of shenanigans with I don't know, like Basilisk and Lure, and like there's just like all kinds of weird combos all over the place. Green, like the card pool is actually pretty deep for this color. It's one thing that I didn't really appreciate when I started messing around with like budgety like monocolor decks. But for me, it's easy to fall in love with green just because of the it's so techy. There's such a depth to the not only the creatures but also like other things. Oh, you could build Eureka decks. Like, come on, man. Like there's so many things if you're strictly playing like in a mono green format. And not unsleeved, right? If you're willing to to play with those cards, or if you're just playing with proxies or whatever, there's a crazy range of things that is not really, that I don't really think holds true for the other colors in old school in the same way. There's just like a lot of funky things, like very unique effects, like Titania's Song and Eureka and Living Plane. That's a whole other class of decks, right?
Yeah. I don't disagree. Like I was thinking about like I was like, just like before we talked about any of this, I was like, all right, Dave's built mono green. He's got that figured out. I was like, I wonder what mono blue has to offer. Like, we already know what mono white has to offer. We already know what mono black has to offer.
Yeah, blue's hard.
Blue's, I think it's like there's some type of merfolk build there, but I feel like you need the EC rules so you can dip the opponent.
Decks. Well, I mean, I don't know. Ask Jordan Boyle, the South African guy who lives in the UK, who like, did he top 8 a NoobCon with the fish deck without even running Serendipity or something? Like, I mean, he's a good player.
I think so.
But you hear about stuff like that. I think, I don't know, I messed around with that. I think the limitation there is like the late, it's the late game utility of the creatures, right? So like all of the, like I said, like think about the mono green deck, like oh, Timberwolves, it's a 1/1 for 1, but it's actually it's better in the mid to late game. Like you can't say that about Merfolk of the Pearl Trident, or even like
Yep.
I don't know, Flying Men or something. Like Lord of Atlantis is great. Like if they have an island and things get out of hand and you're just attacking them with like 6 or 7 evasive damage every turn. But sometimes in the mid to late game you don't have that going on for you, and you top deck it and it's a grizzly bear, and it's like what does this even do? Like it doesn't have
There's
like
no
I think
second mode. It's a blank card.
yeah, I think green, green and to some extent white, especially with Fallen Empires, like the creatures have a lot of tricky abilities that are synergistic and have late game applications. Like white has a lot of like little guys that happen to pump either themselves or others or stuff like that, or they gain they gain other abilities. They have weird evasion. Blue doesn't have that at all. So I've been playing like Zephyr Falcon in blue, and I'm like, yeah, this is a pretty good card, but like there's a limit to what it can do. And same thing with red. I think budget mono red decks, like you have a Goblin's Direction that's kind of hard to get exactly right. I think there's like a kind of a mid-rangey disc direction that I like Kingslayer, right? Like Eric Johnson has put up a ton of results like with his unpowered mono red deck. I don't even know how he does it or how it works, but he's a good player, and he's put the reps in.
Player. Yeah.
But there's a branch of that like unpowered mono red tree that's sort of all his that I want to explore a little bit more and learn about. And mono black is all there's like one way to build it, right? Like the creature suite is terrible. The most interesting part of the creature suite, unfortunately, is all Arabian Nights. Like there's a lot of like there is a Bad Moon deck with like Urg Raiders and Hazran Ogress and whatever
like
Stone Throwing Devils and stuff.
Deck. Yeah.
But it just folds to bottle. So it's like, okay, I guess I'm playing. First of all, it doesn't exist in Swedish. But like I guess I'm just playing like hymns and racks and the normal stuff.
Normal mono black.
There's not a lot of things to explore there. But I want to spend more time on blue. Like there's definitely a mono blue deck with copy artifacts. So you're like mono blue robots type thing, or like getting some value out of Mana Vaults and Sage of Latinum and stuff like that. The problem is like that like it stops being budgety. Like Suchi, if you're really on a budget, like Suchis are not cheap, copy artifacts are not cheap, Mana Vaults are not cheap, and then it's always going to pale in comparison to the actual the workshop builds, like a mono blue workshop deck or a true mono blue workshop deck is very, very expensive, and just a clearly better version of that deck, where you can't necessarily say that with comparing to just a good rack deck, him rack deck, a good white weenie deck, a good mono green deck. Like there's not like a souped up like, oh, I want to spend $10,000 and make a better version of this deck. Like that doesn't exist.
Even if you buy the Pearl, it doesn't matter. Yeah. But well, I mean that's like because Blue's advantage is the card draw, right? So you want to play like Ancestral, Time Walk.
Yeah, you want Ancestral. Like, what are you doing playing Blue without Ancestral, right? So
exactly, and then at that point you might as well just play a second or third color. So
right.
Then you're like, all right, I'm in blue, black, white. All right, let's put this book in here, and then
exactly. Then you're either playing the deck or you're playing 12 volt or something.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how it goes. So, but yeah, no, I think I really do like exploring and kind of defending these like strictly budget spaces. That because there is a lot. There's just a lot in the card pool that like I think people are sometimes afraid to dig into a little bit. Like people don't like losing games, and you're going to lose a lot of games, especially early on when you're learning something new. So I think, I don't know, I just encourage people to put the time in.
Yeah, I struggle with that because going this last weekend, right? I was like, oh, I'm going to travel. Do I want to bring something spicy, or do I want to bring something like that I just want to like the usual things I play so I can play it no matter what, right?
Yep.
And I think I'm gonna set my usual stuff aside. I'm gonna play like more off-color decks this next year, just because like when I come out and see you in June, I will not be bringing in a red-green deck.
Good.
unless something poor happens. But
Well,
yeah.
I mean, there's two schools of thought there, though, right? Is like one is like how many huge tournaments do you get to play in a given year, and
Yep.
if you are playing a big tournament, do you want to bring your A game? Or I mean, our spice prices are pretty good too. So
I would say that my problem, well, not my problem, but like like Jahari's window stuff. Like my known is that I'm not a good player, and I'm not going to be a good player. I might win 1 or 2 rounds, but I'm not going to be a good player for 6 or 8 rounds, right?
right.
So I
So
might
then you
as
might as well
well
just play whatever the hell you want.
play whatever the fuck I
Go
want.
for a spice
Exactly.
prize, dominate the middle tables, and have an awesome time.
That was this last weekend. I had to walk up and down the fucking stairs every round. It was the worst. I'd be like, win one, lose one, win one, lose one, and just fucking
It's
bounce
like,
back.
yeah, okay, you get sent back to purgatory.
Yeah. I was like, oh, cool, back down with the cool kids, and then
Yeah,
back upstairs.
awesome. I do. It is kind of a funny aspect of Chalice. It's like the bottom tables are literally downstairs, and you can feel like the air is different down there. It's
looser.
It's stark. Yeah,
Bloodsport was being played.
Yeah. You get the videos. That's cool. Love Bloodsport.
Yeah. So I think I'm gonna start playing some Dead Guy Ale stuff, and we can talk about that on a later note. But I think I have like a shell built. I think it's like I would only play it in a non-4 strip environment. RIP my ego on that.
Oh, interesting. I was about to say the opposite thing.
I think you get fucked on. I think because of the double black and double white, you need to play the best
that's
cards.
the problem, right? It's like there's a lot of double black and double white pips, depending on how you're building it. I think I would skew heavier black.
You're just splashing the white for the disenchant, the swords, and the balance.
Disenchant is like the most important thing to splash for, right?
Yep.
It's probably like disenchant, balance, swords, or something in that order.
Swords are in the sideboard. You don't need them in the main. Just play
for sure. So like I think in 4 strip that it's interesting because you don't need to play sinkholes. You can play 4 strips and 4 hymns and just win a lot of games that way.
Do you want factories though? This is my problem. It's either play 4 strips or play 4 factories.
What else does that deck even do? It plays Hypnotic Specters.
Yeah, hippies, lions.
Oh,
that's your best 1-drop.
I don't know if you can play lion.
I'll send you my current rough draft.
Lion needs like 12-ish white to have a chance of playing it on turn 1, and then hippie wants like no joke. Well, him and hippie wants like
you just got to play the dark ritual. You just got to get over it.
15
and play the
black. I think I'm out. Now I know people don't play this deck.
I'm gonna share my screen. Let me just get logged into my super secret place. Decks.
Mark Jonovich, from the I think it's like Eastern Pennsylvania or Maryland or something like that. He plays in the Neos here and there.
Okay.
He's done a lot of work in like just like white black space. So I mean, I think he would be a good guy to talk about the the ins and outs.
What's his name?
I don't think I've played something that I would consider calling Dead Guy L since like I don't know 2016 or something.
It's definitely not going to be good.
One thing I have enjoyed in the black white space and getting back to like squad goals for next year, and just playing fun stuff. I've been messing around with Yawgmoth Demon a lot.
Yeah, I saw you buying those. I've
got like a Yawgmoth Demon, Mana Vault, Yawgmoth Priest, Suchi, Sacrifice, and like dark. What do you call it? No, Drain Life kind of deck. It's a blast. It does a lot of really funky, powerful things out of nowhere. Sometimes you just have a demon in play and it kills you. But that's the trade-off. All right, so what is this?
Demons. Okay.
For Juggernaut, what do you do? No, this deck is bad.
Stop. It is bad, but the Swords of Plowshares go to the sideboard. Those are probably 2 terrors. The Mind, I don't think you need the Mind Twist because we're not playing fast mana. So those go away. But I'm just gonna fix it now since I can do this live.
I don't think this is a good deck, Eric.
I didn't think it was a good deck, but I think the Juggernaut helps you get around.
I think the Juggernaut gets shattered on sight because it's your only artifact.
No. There's all the artifacts are over here. You got your
Chaos Orb that doesn't count, and one Jalam Tome.
You gotta get some card draw. I think that's where this deck sucks.
No, I mean I like Jalam Tome, but what I'm saying is like there's an axis here of like your opponent has main deck disenchants and shatter effects, right?
Mm-hmm.
and you're just gonna suck your Juggernaut's gonna eat those the second that you tap out to play it. You just remove the Juggernaut.
I just go. They're gone. They're gone. You've already sold me.
Okay.
I think you could maybe get a singer in here.
Orator's good. Yeah, no, Vampire's great. All right. You're playing Savannah Lions, but how many white do you have? 4 city. Oh God, it's 4 City of Brass. That's so bad. That's so bad.
It's the only way to get around it.
4 plus 5 is 9. Plus 4 is
here.
Okay, so
we don't have to think about it. Watch this. We don't have to think about it. We go to our on curve calculator, and we paste it in, and then we know.
I mean, that's one way of doing it. I have my own like heuristics basically for these. It doesn't count for like Dark Ritual starts, but sure. I think you can actually come off. I think you can go down to. No, you have 13 white right now. I don't think you need. I think you can go down to 12. And still be able to cast your lion. I think you can cut
13 white.
I think you can cut one of the Cities of Brass. I hate 4 City of Brass.
I think it's bad too, but I almost feel like you like have to do it that way. Now the real question is, do you play?
What does this deck do well?
Nothing. It attacks.
Yeah.
And the problem I'm finding is that it only went like when I think about constructing a deck, I want it to win 2 ways, right? Either it attacks and does something else, right? So like Channel Fireball, something like that. All this thing does is attack. I feel like maybe you add a Drain Life or 2 to like have some reach on it, but
definitely that. I mean, I think your Mind Twist goes back in there because don't.
You think it goes back in?
You have rituals. Yeah, I hate the lion. I hate the lion. What else can we do for one?
It's your best. It's your best 1-drop. Exactly. Black doesn't have a good 1-drop. It has Stone.
It doesn't have anything. It has bog rats. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. Like the cards are so bad. Good lord.
But I want to like. We don't have to think about this any longer because we're like.
No, I would just hammer them. I would just hammer them with. I would play sinkholes. I would hammer them with strip, sinkhole, and hymns, and just like don't let them have anything. And then play whatever. Yeah, attack their hand with the hippie and I don't know, question mark.
Good. I'm glad I have all these cards already. That makes life easier.
Yeah,
okay, I mean, we don't need to think about this anymore.
Okay, good.
Yeah. No. This is like a whole other thing. We'll deal with this later.
Not very good.
I know it's not. But my gut says there is a way to make this deck work.
I mean, there's definitely like a deck that will win some games and you'll go like 3 and 4 at a tournament with.
That'd be a good day for me. That'd be a good day. 3 and 4. Fucking good day.
Sign me up. Yeah.
Like I've already paid my entry.
Right.
All right, dude. I gotta like actually do some stuff now.
Well, nice to see you. Thanks for having me on.
Yes. I always enjoy these talks. I will try and see you in June. I'll just put that in the intro or outro, your stuff, and then I'll put a link to whenever you decide to put up signups. I'll throw that out there too.
Oh yes, yeah. Signups for LobsterCon will open after the first of the year, probably like late January, early February, something like that.
Okay.
But I mean, the information's out there. It's June 2nd and 3rd, and I recommend looking at lodging.
Yeah, is there? Because I know it'll be in Boston, but like, is there something else that weekend? Because normally I thought you were like up against something else for like lodging. I can't remember why I thought this.
Well, in May you run into like college graduations and stuff, right? Like Harvard, Harvard, okay. MIT, BU. June we're after Memorial Day, so we should avoid most of that. But it's also, it's the weather should hopefully be pretty nice, and yeah, there's always conferences and there's always something, right? There's always probably multiple things, but so hotels are expensive, but they're less so, and there's more selection if you look now. So that's my advice.
Okay. Yep. I think that's good advice. I will definitely do that part. Last question about this stuff, and then we can definitely go. Are you going to do the pre-modern on Friday and then the old school on Saturday?
I will. Yes.
Just so I know if I need to fly out early or not.
Yes. Yeah. The pre
Okay.
there will be a huge pre-modern tournament on the Friday.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
That makes sense. I don't. We'll talk about this offline about pre-modern.
Sure.
That's a whole fucking other thing. Okay. All right. I'm gonna turn this thing off.
Woo.
Maybe.
Diddle-doo,
We did
diddle-doo.
it, gang. Stop recording.